Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to serge a waistband elastic. Okay, so first what you do, you take your elastic. What I normally do, I measure it on my waist and then I make it as tight enough as it's comfortable so it won't fall down. And plus, you want to leave maybe half an inch, because what we're going to do, we're going to use a sewing machine here. We're going to make sure that it's not twisted, okay? Because sometimes you can accidentally twist this and it'll be like you have to undo it, and that's really annoying. So you take your elastic, you overlap it, and you just zigzag back and forth, so that way you have a tube. Okay, so that's for the elastic. So for the waistband, this is going to be the top of a skirt. So I've cut it in one piece. If you cut it in two, that's fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to serge this down, so this is another tube. So then we're going to have two tubes and we're going to serge them together. So here on this elastic piece right there, do you see it? It's like sticking up. Because this is cloth elastic. So what that is, it's like fabric and thread wrapped around the piece of rubber. Because elastic is rubber. This is the stretchy stuff. You know what those rubber bands that you put in your hair and then it really hurts to pull out? Yeah, those are the bad ones. But so whenever I make swimsuits, that's why I like to use the pure rubber. That's what Speedo and all the professional swimwear companies use. They use the pure elastic. So that way when you sew it, these little things don't stick up all the time. Okay, so now that you have your two tubes, just like this, we have to attach them, right? So this is going to be sewn on as the waistband, okay? But you can't just start serging and sewing it and then, everything will be perfect, okay? You need to make sure that it is evenly spaced, right? Because the waistband and the elastic are not the same length, right? So one is a slightly... Look, the waistband is bigger than the elastic. That means you have to stretch the elastic so that it fits. But if you stretch it too much in one area and not enough the other, it will be like all bunched on one side and then all spread on the other side, and it won't be even. In order to solve this problem, you don't need to do some fancy math calculations and measuring square root and -2 or whatever. What you do, just take a light pencil, take a point anywhere you want, like I've already done it here. So just make a little point here. Take this, fold this in half. So what you're doing, it's a circle, so it's a pie. So we're going to divide this in two. See how I folded this in half? You go to the other place where you just folded it, and you take a little dot again. Now you have two dots. You just divided the circle into two. So you take these two dots, and you meet them up together, so they'll kiss. And then you go fold the other end, and we'll make a little dot on this end, and then go all the way down, and fold a dot. That way we divided this exactly into 4 portions, okay? If you want it to be super more even space, I find 4 is good enough, but if you want, when you're first practicing, maybe do it 8. So you take these other 2 dots, take those together, and then place a little dot here, okay? And then that way you'll divide this into 8. We're going to do the same thing with the waistband. So when you serge, you're going to line up these two dots together. So you're going to stretch this until it meets the next dot. That way it'll be perfectly even. Okay, so to set up your serger, I like to use all basic thread. So see this is just the basic thread. I don't like to use the fleecy, that kind of stretchy thread that most of the time you use on stretchy material, right? But for the elastic, that's not necessary because this is already so stretchy you don't need that, right? And I put it on the length as long as possible, and also make sure you test it out on a scrap fabric. Always before you serge, test it on a scrap fabric. Okay, so what we do, see we have the 2 dots, we're gonna touch them together. Take this, place it underneath the machine, line it up, place the needle in. When you're serging elastic, at first it's going to be difficult to be able to pull and hold and adjust all at the same time. So you're going to have to take practice. This took me a long time to be able to get it fairly even. So what you do, you take the next dot and you go over here and you put these 2 dots together. So now you hold this, don't let go. So you have to stretch this until the bottom, the fabric is tight, okay? But since I have the join right here, whenever I do the join, I don't like to stretch it more because because right now it's really thick, and so you don't want to do that. So right now we're going to go quite slowly. Sometimes when it goes over this thick, I like to use the hand wheel. Okay, so now we'll go back over here. So we line up our 2 dots. We hold this, and then we pull the elastic, okay? And when you pull the elastic, be careful, because sometimes this likes to slide underneath, and then you end up serging here and you have a big fat hole here, and that's really annoying, okay? Then nothing is lined up. So you got to make sure, sometimes when I put this down, I like to stick a little bit of the fabric out on this side so that you can see it, right? So you know that you're not going to miss it and you have to do something again. So we go. So when you're coming back to the other end, since it's already attached over here, so all you have to do is just take this, hold this with your fingers, and you pull this to, and make sure, because at the end, lots of times, it always will bunch up like this, like almost always. I always find it. So make sure you pull extra tight just at this overlapping point right here. So, and also you can see here if it's like wrinkly, so now we pull more. And see if we were successful. See, now it's nice and smooth here. See, now we have an even waistband. See, like you can check. See, the gather and stretchiness is like similar throughout the whole waistband. So we need to hem this down, right? Okay, so I use zigzag stitch. You can use like the box stitch, or if you have like the fancy serger, then you can obviously, you should be able to know how to do that. So obviously right here, now we also want it to be even. So this point, since it's already placed, all you have to do, you fold this over. You're going to make sure that this is unlined. You don't want to have too much extra fabric here or too tight, because look, if you pull it, see, look, if you pull it like really tight on this side, you have this like air pocket, and this is all going to roll. So you just want to be just even. Don't pull it any extra. Fold it over. Okay, so if your machine is great, which I'm pretty sure yours is great, you can sew from this end. I recommend sewing from this end, because that way, especially when you're starting, you can get right close to the edge here. Because if you sew a little bit on this side, like this will flap up. It's not the biggest like end of the world, but it's nice to be on the edge. Since my machine has some issues, I actually sew from the other side. So I fold this under, I place this under, and then every so often I have to like pull and go here. So as you sew, you're gonna have to feel underneath, and you see how it's already been like kind of gathered the correct way because you serged it before with the dots. So that way you'll like just grab over here, pull this under, you have to use your other hand, and you go and you have to stretch it. And the feed dogs won't be able to do everything. You don't want to force anything on the feed dogs, but you're gonna have to help glide it quite a bit because it stretches and it moves. So pretty much you hold it, you move it, hold, and then you move it with it, but don't force against the feed dogs or else you can damage your machine. Now look how nasty that is. It keeps missing over there because I was actually kind of lazy and I forgot to check, but I didn't change it to a stretch needle. Like the stretch needles, they're shaped differently so that it picks up the thread better. If you use a regular needle, well, obviously this is what's gonna happen, and it's driving you crazy. I know, like they're really expensive. Like this one is like, look, $5.69 for like plus tax, of course, plus like 5 needles, right? And it's like it's really expensive, but they're really important. Like look at this job, like. Okay, and make sure you only buy like the German needles. This the Smiths, I don't know how to pronounce that, but the German ones are the most best quality ones. So don't waste your time, because you want to make a beautiful outfit and you're working so hard and putting all this effort to make everything a needle, and then you go cheap out on the needles and then you get crappy work because of this. So it's really important. Make sure you buy the needles, and it's extremely highly worth it, because like just look at that, it's so ugly. Now I have to undo this. And also like in order to do like any job, like just a job in general, you need the right tools and equipment. So that's why you really need the stretch needle. So make sure, like, and also your machine, like you're going along and then it keeps getting all messed up, the thread gets pucking, the bobbin breaks, it gets all big knot that you have no idea where it came from. Like that's not the machine's fault, it's not really your fault, well it kind of is. So you have to make sure you treat your machine nicely, like you pet it, you say like good job, and cheer it on. Like I actually cheer my machine on, I'm like, come on, go, you're almost at the end. You know when you're almost at the end, you have like 1 inch left, and then it like the bobbin runs out, like that's when you curse the world. But so make sure you get the needles, so then the machine can do a good job, so you're happy, it's happy, you don't hit it, you know, and it's all, then you create beautiful work. Okay, so this is I made the waistband for, so here's the finished puffy skirt. So elastic, stretchy, and then puffy skirt. So for the second method is if for sewing a waistband elastic. So it's the same thing. You take the elastic, you measure it around your waist, and then you zigzag stitch. So you have this. And as you can see, like, look at the size difference, okay? So if you were to mark it with those white dots, divide this in 4 and divide that in 4, and you would serge it, you would have to stretch this a lot in order to match up the size, right? And so that can be kind of difficult, and also it's not good to like super stretch your elastic because it will make it die faster. And it's also difficult to handle because while you're stretching your elastic, this fabric tends to move underneath and it won't line up, so you get gaping holes everywhere. So what I do to solve this problem is I actually gather this first. So what I do is I just use your sewing machine and just a regular straight stitch, the longest width possible, and you sew all the way around. We're gonna gather this up to the same size, and then it will be much easier to sew. So you want to do a really long straight stitch, so just choose a thread color that's very contrasting to your fabric, because later on this is going to be used to gathering, but you have to remove this thread because it's a regular straight stitch just to gather it. Whenever you sew like a straight stitch on like stretchy fabric, if you pull it, it's going to break, and it's going to be really annoying when you pull like your pants up and down and then you find out that it breaks and you think something is bad. It's just the basting part that is broken. That's why we use a different color. Once you've gathered it, make sure that it's nice and even. All the gathers are also be like too puffy here on one side, so you want to get it to be about the same size as the elastic waistband, so like here. So then now it'll be really easy to serge it. So we take this on the machine and we place the elastic. There'll be no need to stretch the elastic or stretch the bottom. Just as you're going along, try to make sure that nothing gets folded underneath, because then you'll miss it. So try to keep this nice and even. Have the elastic in, and when you come around to the side where you have that basting in, don't cut the threads off, because later on we need to remove it, like just after this step. So you place the elastic. No need to stretch it. So you finish the elastic. See, look how it's nice and even, all the gathers everywhere. So this is why you're using the contrasting thread. That way it's much easier to take out. So you just take your stitch ripper and you start pulling, because like, look, you probably won't be able to hear that, but see, it's like stiff, and see, like as I pull like this, the thread breaks. See? This is what happens when you sew any kind of straight stitch on stretch fabric. That's why when you do stretch fabric, you never use a straight stitch. Normally use like a zigzag or something else that's not straight directly in a line, because it's going to break the moment you pull it. So, but this is the point now, because it was just for a basting. So now you just remove the thread so that later on when you wear it, it doesn't like break all the time and you just get like freaking out. After we finish serging on the waistband and you remove the thread, so what you want to do is you take the elastic and you fold it over once, okay? And you just want to take it, you don't want to pull extra, but you want the elastic to line up on the edge right here. So this is the actual width of the elastic. You don't want it to be too much, then it'll be too baggy at the top. And also because you want the gathers to be the same, it's really important just to take it from this side and fold it over. That's all you need to do. And then whatever the gathers are, you just pin it and you watch and you keep the gathers at the same amount, because that's the point of having it even. And also, since I have the pockets in the front, and if you put the pockets, you want to make sure, because I want this to catch under here, so I add some extra pins to make this catch. So to finish off, I just zigzag all the way around and then we're done.